In today's episode of the Deadly Dozen podcast, we're joined by Ciaran Parkinson, who's a well-known face in the HYROX scene. You recently got, what was it, 55 minutes on an open solo?
Yeah, I think it's 55, 56 or something like that.
Wow. Yeah, so that's pretty rapid, considerably faster than what I can do. And you're also Elite 15 athlete for the doubles, male doubles.
Yep. So we really pushed last year in the qualification races. We did some journeys. We went to Australia. We went to Miami.
Wow.
And we did London, which isn't quite so far. And we came fourth, and you needed to finish in the top three in two of those races. So we didn't quite make it last year, whereas this year we managed to get into the first race in Hamburg, which was really cool. Great experience, and then obviously hoping to go to Melbourne in a few weeks as well.
Incredible. So genuinely a legit HYROX athlete, and obviously you do a lot of coaching. So for what we usually do at most podcasts, we'll start by just saying, introduce yourself fully, where you've come from, and what's your journey been so far getting into HYROX and let us know who you are.
So I probably have a different story to most people who do, like who are competing at quite a high level within functional fitness. I don't really have any kind of sporting background. I'm not an ex-runner. Okay. I was never particularly great at football. I was okay at it. I kind of found running in lockdown. I remember everyone was kind of doing, do you remember they did that like run 5, donate 5, tag 5 or something like that? And I got tagged in that so many times. And I did my 5K and I did no training. I think got like 20 minutes or something like that.
I assumed that you were a runner.
No background. Yeah. I've only just started the track sessions I've been doing since I started HYROX, the first time I've ever run on a track.
Wow. So were you a fit kid? Like you do get kids at cross country that they're natural.
I was overweight when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'm not fat. I was like a chubby lad, to be fair. But I was always, whenever we played football, I was like that scrappy do kind of player that was just like boom, 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 boom.
So
constantly running up and down. If the attack broke down, I was the first person in defence still. And everyone's like, how has he got there so quickly? And I wasn't the quickest, but I was just non-stop for that whole race. So it was that's kind of my background in terms of I haven't really got one. And then, so I got into running a little bit. I remember running like a marathon on an assault runner, and I did it in like 3 hours and 10 minutes or something like that.
On like a curved treadmill?
Yeah.
That must have been, anyone that's done curved treadmills are like built for like 400, aren't they? You start to run for more than 5 minutes and you're like, it's hard. So you did a full marathon? Yeah, because we were doing, so I was working as a small group PT coach at the time. And it was the time when the lockdown period where you could go to work, so the gym wasn't allowed to be open, but we could be there. So we were doing the usual small group PT slots, but doing them via Zoom. Oh, wow, yeah.
So I was like, well, I may as well train while I'm here. And for some reason, I decided I wanted to build up to that. I have no idea why. I assume it's because I had more free time on my hands than normal. But and it was just that got me into running. And then I've always been someone that just did what I liked when it came to training in terms of like, I enjoy doing upper body. I hate doing legs, as most people can see. I like just pairing random things together. So I would be someone that would be doing like, right, I'm going to do 10 sets of bench press into burpees into runs.
So you almost trained like
what
exactly. The sport is.
Like, it was really like random kind of workouts that I did. And then we had our first daughter. We moved up from Crawley kind of area, so Sussex area, up to Cheltenham. And we had my first daughter, and like most first-time dads, you're tired constantly, you lose a bit of motivation for your training and all that kind of stuff. So even though like everyone thinks when you're in a gym, you're super motivated to train, but it's the complete opposite. You just want to go home and you want to sleep. I remember being sat on the sofa eating donuts or something, literally. And one of my old clients messaged me saying, oh, you should try this. And it was like the second ever time, I think it was the Birmingham event, which was like the second ever HYROX UK. He's like, you'd be quite good at it. I was like, and normally when people do that, I always say, you know what it's like. You go like, oh yeah, go on, I might do it, but never actually do it. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet and just sign up for it. And like every single person who started training for any fitness race, but HYROX in particular, you just do mini sims of the event because no one really knew how to train for it at that point. Went to my first event in Manchester and turned up. Every single person was built like a god or goddess.
Bit like me.
There's some skinny skinny fat bloke walking in going, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy this. But my wife came, we brought our daughter, she was only about 2 or 3 months old. So I remember my wife having to go off to like breastfeed and stuff like that in the race. And then I did it in like a pair of like Nike Metcons, my first one. So like my knees were shot afterwards.
Feeling it,
but then I thought, what have I signed up for here? There's a bunch of blokes like built like fridge freezers.
And they are, aren't they? Like genetically modified men,
you're like, there's no
incredible
way.
Shape.
No way I'm going to be able to compete with these. And I remember that I did my first run and I got to the ski about 45 seconds before everyone else. I was like, they can't run. And I even remember doing the sled pull, and there's a big bloke, and he was just so fatigued by the time he got there. He was like, how's this skinny little fucker moving the sled quicker than I am and stuff like that. And it just went from that. And I think I won that race.
So what time did you get?
It was still quite a reasonable time. It was like 1 hour and 3, I think.
Wow.
But you got to remember the standards there were completely different. So like you could do Superman burpees as long as they look like burpees. There was obviously no like sled lines and all that. I assume the wall balls,
and
there wasn't much
was the running
depth.
really clear? And
yeah, it was dead. I think there was like 500-600 people across the whole day, so there was no one really around to keep you in the way. But yeah, and then from there, like as I said, we just had my first daughter. I'd only just started working for this gym, so I didn't really have to pot to piss in at that point. So I qualified for the World Championships, which is in Las Vegas. Didn't really know much about it. And was like, this is a cool opportunity, but I do not have the money to afford to go over to Vegas at this point in my life. Like my wife's on maternity leave. I've just started my new job. And one of my clients, very kindly, his company actually sponsored me to go and do it.
Oh, wow, good on him.
Which was an incredible opportunity. And what has kind of, from that point, built all this up, I absolutely crumbled at the pro weights the first time I ever did them. I think
because that was the thing, wasn't it? You did open, you could qualify as open, but then you had to step up to pro. I think the pro weight, the pro sleds as a combination took me about 15 minutes. Oh,
it was a real slog.
So it got
and then I kind of had two opportunities really. It was either, okay, that was a really cool experience and it was lovely being involved in that, but I'm going to look to do something else, or I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to understand that actually my first race was really good and I can probably build from that. And I'm going to invest in myself to do it. And that's kind of the avenue I went down. And it kind of has grown from there. I think my next race, I went and broke like the British record in the Open with like 58 minutes. And this was when nobody went under 60 minutes. Like I think I was only like third person ever to do it or something like that. So and it's just all snowballed from there. Like in terms of coaching, people kind of started messaging me on Instagram, and the amount of clients I built up ended up being, I was earning more money online than I was in person. So I kind of put all my eggs in that basket about 3 years ago. And it's kind of all developed to this point now, where, as you said, like running some good times and being kind of in the Elite 15, which has been a really cool experience.
Wow. So you must be incredibly proud of being a sort of early adopter, really, and being a big part of the sport from the early days.
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things that probably stands me out from most other people is just consistency with it. So although maybe my ethos and thought process about how you should train for the event has changed over time as I've learned more, as I've had different coaches and stuff like that. But really what hasn't changed is the consistent approach to my training throughout.
Yeah. Well, we were talking in the pickup truck on the drive over about how the fitness industry does have a bit of a call-out culture, which sometimes can be, it's good that people get called out when they're bullshitting, but sometimes people forget that you're not the finished product. And you're always learning. Actually, sometimes your early methodologies that you then move away from, you actually sometimes, when you're in the game long enough, you come full circle and go, actually, I haven't done that for a while and I'm going to start using that more. So you're not the finished product. And you will get things wrong, or you'll get things right, or you'll change. And maybe even in the future, you might program in a way that you go, actually, what I was doing earlier was better. Or actually, what I'm doing here, I'm putting in too much sled volume and people are getting calf injuries, and you'll learn and you'll adapt and you understand the individuality of each client. But that's something we were talking about that we sort of don't like about the industry, when there's too much of a call-out culture, because you coming into HYROX, you've come in blind, didn't know how to train, and over the last few years, you've got to a point where you're building that expertise, but it's not right. When you first started marketing yourself as a HYROX coach, you're not the finished product. And it's all a learning process. And actually, like we spoke about, it's just as much about getting the enjoyment, what the person enjoys. It's not about always what's optimal, what elicits the highest overall performance. It's about what's going to be sustainable for you. What are you going to enjoy? So what would you say has been the biggest sort of lessons you've learned in terms of the training ethos, the methodologies that you use? What are the cornerstones of what you give to people as programming? Obviously there's individuality, but there's certain, not necessarily rules, but principles.
Yeah, I think like my thought process around everything has changed, and as we now have 2 children, and as I've gone through that different stages, how I can train and my ethos to training has changed, because what I could do when we had 1 daughter in comparison to what I can do when we had 2 in terms of volume of training has changed. Even stages of their life now, like my second daughter is now at a stage where she sleeps through the night, so I have the ability, more energy to train.
It's nice, that, isn't it? My sons both slept, but my daughter was 2 years. She was up 3 or 4, which was much harder on my wife because she'd want my wife.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It's difficult.
I don't realise, and I mean, this is probably going down different, but I didn't realise how much of a knock-on effect having a second child would have to me. And I got bad injury last year around my knee, like my meniscus is pretty much gone, and not having the ability to recover properly from that. I look at guys who are getting like 8, 9, 10 hours sleep, like when you're getting 3 or 4 some nights, it's tough. And then mentally you go and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, in terms of the training side of things, I think my thought process now is, I mean, you have to look at who you're trying to train. If we're looking at someone like I'm coaching, are they looking to train to get better at HYROX, or are they looking to train because they enjoy HYROX? And that is almost 2 different things if we're looking at HYROX from a percentage, because the person who wants to train because they enjoy HYROX is probably going to enjoy having more kind of HYROX style simulation stuff within their training.
Absolutely.
Now, whether that is the best thing to do to improve is obviously down to each individual, is down to each coach, but the fundamentals are what most people need. I was a small group personal training coach, a PT in person for 8 to 10 years before I went online. All the knowledge I have is from that. And when you break down all the individual elements of what any kind of fitness race is, it's hinge patterns, it's single leg patterns, it's squat patterns with a high need for aerobic fitness, basically.
Yeah, fundamentals.
It's the fundamentals. So it's how you tailor that to each individual and make it a little bit more exciting, rather than it being like you're going to do a bro split and then you're going to go running, which actually probably is what you need.
Yeah, and so how does if we break it down then, how do you program your own running? And then what do you think are the sort of pillars of running development for you?
So I have coaches myself. As I said, I have a very successful online coaching business myself. And if I didn't have my own coach, I think I'd probably I'd struggle, and me and Simon were talking about it. I think it's difficult. You want someone to bounce ideas off, right? And I think any good coach has a coach.
Yeah.
So in terms of like running, I think there's 3 key aspects to it. You've obviously got your easy runs, which should make up the main volume of the amount of running that you do. You have your threshold runs, which is obviously the ones that are going to be useful for flushing out lactate. This is kind of the speed that most people should be able to run their HYROX races or any fitness races within. And then you kind of have your over speed work. Now, this over speed stuff is probably, you talked about that guy, the older gentleman, you're right, that he's doing a little bit too much of that. And I think that's probably the big problem, is people do too much of that. And the problem with doing that is you can't recover from it so well. So if the idea is probably you want 2-to-1 ratio of easy to hard. And that's kind of where I've gone with my running now. So I tend to do, as I mentioned, I've got a bit of a knee issue, so I tend to do maybe no more than 50, 60K a week, but 30 to 40 of that is all easy running.
And how does that equate to, do you work off mainly distance then or time? Because some people will go, right, I'm going to go running for 20 minutes, or I'm going to go running for an hour at an easy pace, or do you set your running programming primarily off distance?
Yeah, I think, so as I said, it's done for me, realistically. I would say it's more off distance, so I probably have 2 runs a week, which are somewhere between 10 and 14K of like hard work. And then 2 runs a week that are more like 15, 16K of easy work.
So are your hard runs up to about 15K then? Yeah,
so today, before I came down for here, I had 10K of like high-end tempo, like threshold work. Ended up being like a 35-minute 10K. Then we did, and then I did some like 400-meter quick efforts at the end. But that was my one hard run for the week. So I got 2 easy runs, did that as my hard run. And then on Monday, I had like a tempo run, which is staying in that kind of mid-green zone, aerobic zone, sort of 150 heart rate sort of thing.
And then how do you approach your strength training? Obviously you having it programmed, but let's go on to what you do for strength, but also then what you do for most clients in terms of programming. Is it barbell focused? Is it?
So I think the biggest mistake that I've been making recently with my strength stuff is there's not been enough continuity with it, which obviously when you're trying to get stronger, but the biggest thing I struggle with in the pro is the fact I'm not strong enough. I'm only 70 kilos in comparison to most of these guys who are...
And you're quite tall, you're elite,
you're 6 foot.
Exactly,
Well, my wife is 5'11" and a half, but I'm saying I'm 6 foot.
You're definitely 6 foot.
Thank you, Jason, I appreciate that.
That's it.
So,
because I'm 6'4".
So I'm trying to build some more continuity with my training where I'm doing similar lifts so I can create progressive overload, can get stronger, but the hardest thing for me is eating enough to keep on size and stuff. I like weigh myself in the morning or whatever, and I'm like, I've lost weight again. But that's just the volume of training. I eat a lot. I eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories some days. So.
I've worked in a lot of bodybuilding gyms and powerlifters, and they just say to you, eat more. Yeah. You know, when they used to talk about, I'm that skinny guy that can never gain weight, they like, eat more.
Yeah,
eat
no,
more.
it is.
They say young lads used to think they eat a lot because they have a big Domino's pizza and they're like,
don't eat anything.
Got to eat consistently all the way through. And do you enjoy barbell training? Strength training?
I do. Do you know what? I genuinely do, because that was where my fitness journey started, was doing stuff like that. I like coaching it because one of the things I miss about being online is being a problem solver. That's what I love about coaching, is someone walking in with a shit deadlift. How can I make that look better before they leave? And how can I make them feel better? So one of the things I really always encourage with my athletes is film stuff, send it through so I can send you a detailed voice note or video or whatever it may be, so that when you go back in the gym, you're like, okay, I know what I need to do to adjust that. So yeah, I love training that within my own training, and I enjoy coaching others to do it.
Yeah, because I've had one, where I first really saw you was when you were coaching Lauren, who trains at my gym.
Yeah.
You take a really good approach, very impressive programming. So how do you approach, obviously a lot of listeners might be interested in online coaching or how to become an online coach, because there is that, it is a big leap. And also, you know, coaching face-to-face, it's got the clear benefits of your face-to-face, you can see it done. So what's your approach to your online business, and how do you coach clients? What do you think is the most important thing to be? Because you are very successful as an online coach. You know, I get lots of people are training with you, and every one of them, you know, speaks incredibly highly of your programming. So why do you think you are so successful as an online coach? Obviously because of your performance, but you're retaining these clients.
Yeah.
So you're doing a good job of the coaching. What's key to being a good online coach?
Communication. That is my biggest selling point, is my communication. And we talked about how this can go against you because you're open 24/7 in theory. But I think it's important when don't have the ability to see someone face to face. It's important that they know that I'm going to get back to them within 2-3 hours of them commenting or sending me a message. Obviously not when it's the middle of the night. But if they've got a problem and they've got a session maybe later on in the day and they need that problem, I'm there to be a problem solver for them. So the communication, I think, is key. I've had coaches previously where that wasn't there. You'd send them a message on Monday saying you've got a slight niggle or something like that, so you didn't want to do a certain exercise, and you wouldn't hear back from them Friday, and you'd done that session 3 days ago. So I think a lot of people are getting into this industry of online coaching because anyone can do it in theory.
It sounds scalable as well.
Exactly, but they aren't prepared. They're more seeing it as, oh, it's great because I don't have to do that much work and I can take lots of people on board. I probably am bucking the trend where actually I still work 10 hours a day doing this. And then at weekends, I'm still doing 2 or 3 hours. It does my wife's head in, but it's what's probably got me to the point where I have been successful, you're right. And I am doing really well with it and I enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line is yes, online coaching is always branded by a lot of these influencers online of, you know, this is the way that you scale the business. This is how you get a 6-figure income while sitting on a beach. But fundamentally, it's not the most difficult thing in the world to make a program that is good, right? It's going to be progressive strength. That's not the most complicated thing. The most complicated thing about coaching and the most laborsome thing about coaching online is going to be the communication and the feedback and the small tweaks that you're making. You're not reinventing the wheel for each client, but it really is about communication. It's about, right, how are we going to adapt this, right? You're not finding this, right? You know, the regular testing, how are we going to adapt this program, modify the program?
The biggest thing I think I always find funny is everyone who comes to you is like, I need a personalized, individualized program. Like, but do you? So where do you struggle? I struggle with wall balls, sled pull, and running. cool, you need the same program that 10 other people that are running. The individualization and the coaching comes in with the communication, like we talked about, checking in with them, feedbacking with them. It comes through the fact of, I don't have access to this kind of kit, so how can you change that program for me? I'm going on holiday, so how can we adjust the plan to that? I'm got long hours with work this week, so how can I need the shorter sessions? That's coaching, right? It's not changing the plan for every single person because they have slightly different,
reinventing the wheel.
Exactly, and the run, you can have the same running program. I could do the same running program as someone who runs an hour 10K if it's built off my testing. If it's built off our 10K times, our half marathon times, but the session is 6x5 at threshold. Well, your threshold and my threshold are two different things, but we're still going to get the same benefits from doing that session, right? So, I think anyone who claims that they're selling completely personalized individual programs is different and is lying, really. I think one of the things I've done over a period, because I was actually speaking to a young lad who's trying to get into it, and he said, how do you make it scalable? And I said, well, it just takes time, right? So I've done this now for three and a half years online. I've created hundreds of 6 to 8 week blocks, which are, like we talked about, okay, you're struggling with your wall balls, you're going to go into this block of training now, which is still going to get the fundamentals of running and strength work, but the premises is to get you better at wall balls by the end of it. Same with like sled pull, same with like single leg work, and then you can add in the tailored bits to it.
And you've solved these problems for people time and time again. It's often like school teachers will say when they first got into teaching, the first year was so laboursome because it's all these lesson plans and stuff like that. But over many years, it's like me now, over years of writing the books and developing the strength. I've got strength programs for, loads of different sports. And it's almost like the skeleton. I used to call it, I've got the skeleton of a program. And it's all the fundamentals. And then it is literally tweaks.
Just tweaks, And
then it's the communication, that's it. So obviously you've had great performance in HYROX and you're doing your online coaching business. So where do you've got into Deadly Dozen, you're very, you're a strong contender, you and Tony, for breaking the world record for the men's, we've got the World Championships in September. What's the future holding for you in terms of your own performance and your programming? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I've kind of, in terms of like my own performance, I've kind of gone down, I put a lot of my eggs in this doubles basket now. I think where my skill set is, although I'm not the most powerful athlete, my recovery is second to none, I think. Like, I'm the sort of person that could go and run some quick efforts and within 20, 30 seconds, my heart rate's back down.
Which is arguably the key to fitness race.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, especially in the doubles. If I can let someone do 20 seconds of work and I'm pretty much fresh,
you're good to go.
I'm good to go. So I'm never going to be knocking out in HYROX these 55-minute pro times because I haven't got the strength behind me to do it. Whereas in the doubles, I can certainly be a little bit more competitive. So in terms of my own performance, we're certainly going to be going down that route. Me and Tony, we've got our goal this year of trying to be at every single Elite 15 major within HYROX. We'd like to give a blaster again at the Deadly Dozen.
Because Tony just tweaked his bat slightly.
He did, yeah. So we had a good little race with Billy and Sam, and it was we were ahead comfortably.
You heard that, Billy? Comfortably ahead.
Unfortunately, Tony went down, which was funny because he was telling me how good his deadlifts were in the car park beforehand. But I think he might have been doing them with some dodgy form. But
you can be unlucky. The thing is sometimes people think perfect form protects all injury, but sometimes a little bit of dehydration, just the muscles a bit tense. Deadly Dozen is very hinge heavy. It's even the lunges, even the goblet squats. There's a lot of load on the
first half of the race, right? You've got the lunges, the squats, the snatches, everything.
And anyone can get a little tweak. And when your back goes, you get a little bit of a tweak, and he just felt it. But do you think then, what's your prediction? We've got the world champion, we've got the UK champs, Alexander Stadium, end of May, world champs, 5th and 6th of September. Do you think you can take the Deadly Dozen World Championship? 12 grand prize money for the
We'll have to come and give it a go. I think we're good enough. Me and Tony are...
You were fast.
Even within HYROX, we are up there with the best runners. And we're talking about even Alex and Tim.
And Tony's pretty stacked, isn't he?
Yeah, well, that's why. I think we work well. I mean, if you look at Birmingham, we raced on completely separate days, and he beat me by 12 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So we went into the wall balls, if you did it like time for time, at the exact same moment. So that's why we do partner quite well. There's certain stations where I'm slightly better on maybe like things like the burpees and stuff like that. But then he can take a little bit more brunt on stuff like the sled pull, where he's got 15 kilos extra on me to move the weight. So yeah, we mirror each other quite well.
So are you beating Billy and Sam then?
You want a what was it, a soundbite? Yeah, we can beat Billy. We can beat Billy and Sam. We can beat Billy and Sam.
We've had a really good pair that was, unfortunately, there was a bit of a DQ. But they'll be back again, and they were fast. They were really fast. And we don't know what other, there's been quite a few male pairs, but they're all around that 35-minute mark is going to be, I think, for the male pairs, around 35 minutes, maybe even faster. How fast do you think, as a pair, you can run them 400s?
So I was trying to look, so I did look at Billy and Sam's results, and I was trying to work out like what, I work on pace per kilometre, do you know what I mean? I think you will get to a point where if you can run all of those around at a 3 to 3:10, so I think that's like a 1 minute 10, something like that. If you're decent on the stations, that's going to be tough to beat, right?
That's fast. Yeah, that's really fast.
So I think 110 to 115, I think is your sweet spot. And it's even like the biggest mistake people make in HYROX is slowing down that rock zone. Obviously, you guys have got that little like lane as you come into it. Now, if 12 labours, if you're starting to slow down, because only one of you needs to start to slow down, the other one can go for a full hog, really. So if you slow down 12 times, could be 12 times 3 seconds, which is 36 seconds, which at the top end, that's a difference. That's difference, right?
And Dave Parkinson said that, the current world record holder said, like I said, what do you think's the key? And he says, I will run full pelt into the station. And he says, as soon as I've done that last rep, he goes. Whereas I sort of like look like I've been shot, you know, so I come stumbling out and then look like I've been injured for the whole 400 and then sort of get through the labours. My strength is more the labours, having more of a strength background, even though I'm not particularly muscular. I'm relatively all right on the strength side, but for me, I would say muscular endurance is my strength. Running used to be. I did a lot of cross country. That was my background, combat sports, you know, moderate level, and then, you know, and cross country at an all right level. But I lent into powerlifting and weightlifting, and so the labours carry me through, but the running, I'm just not there yet. I'm all right runner, but HYROX especially really gets me. So I need to get that aerobic training in. So we think we've potentially got the World Championship for the doubles. So obviously we talked a lot about the training side of things. How important is nutrition for you?
Nutrition is probably the thing that I struggle with the most. So I used to go out with my mates and stuff, drinking a lot and stuff like that, like most sort of mid to late 20s people. But probably in the last 3 or 4 years, I've kind of cut that out, and like I have to cut my mates out. They're the sort of mates that you only want to see twice a year because get in trouble.
And it's kids and hangovers, don't mix.
Exactly that. So in terms of that, I see food as like my one like real enjoyment in life. So I wouldn't say that I am someone that you want to follow in terms of nutrition, to be honest. I'm pretty good 80% of the time, but I am the sort of bloke that still has a chicken nugget off my daughter's plate, who will have a handful of Haribo and stuff like that. Is probably the thing that I struggle with most in terms of, but as I said, 80% of the time it's good, but 20%.
But you're slim, and fundamentally you need to fuel. It was like the podcast, we were joking earlier with Rob, our Kitman's podcast, and we said, you know, what do you eat? And it was half his diet was sweets. But the way he trains, he needs the calories. And
definitely.
I often ask people, you know, how much better do you think you'd be if your diet was perfect? So you had a nutritionist go, right, there you go, that is the perfect diet. How much better do you think you'd be?
I found that every time, so I had a nutritionist, and I've done the calorie counting millions of times in life, but it got me doing that. I just thought it just took the enjoyment out of food, like sitting there measuring everything. And I'm aware that being better fueled is certainly going to produce a better performance. But then you have to look at the mental side of it. If my missus says to me, oh, should we get a takeaway pizza tonight? And I'm like, oh no, I can't do that because it's not the right amount of carbs or not the right amount of protein. You have to look at your life alongside it. Exactly. But you just have to look at that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a robot. I'm not a full-time athlete. I need to have some enjoyment in my life, and food is my enjoyment.
What's come up on the podcast a few times is people basically saying, you know, like they often say the 80-20 rule for training, they say it for nutrition. Get your nutritious food in, and then 20% or whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be that exact ratio.
The biggest one I get is obviously when it gets to race week, every single person, what should I be doing food-wise? What should I be doing food-wise? And I'm like, well, whatever you're fueling for your sessions, which should be like some of them are tough and adequate fueling, it's going to be fine for your race day. And HYROX and Deadly Dozen, we're looking for somewhere between 40 minutes and let's say 2 hours. Yeah. It's not a marathon.
No.
So your fueling and your normal foods should be fine. You don't need to start hugely carb loading and stuff like that. It's going to end in disaster.
I have a tin of rice pudding before a race.
Done. Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? I've really got into rice pudding recently.
I eat cold out the can and people look at me horrified, but I think that's normal.
Yeah.
But so do you have gels? Some athletes say to us they have like 2 gels during the HYROX. Do you do gels? Do you do supplements?
I'm sponsored by X Endurance, who are obviously involved in Deadly Dozen as well. And I'm an advocate of making sure that my supplementation is right. So I take multivitamins, I take omega-3, I take the lactic acid buffers, which are really good. They do something called a joint 4, which helps with inflammation. So like I've said, I've got a knee issue that kind of helps with that. Creatine, electrolytes, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty on top of it with that kind of stuff because if I can get, that's the easier 1% kind of stuff in my opinion because it's not affecting me in any way. So I certainly do take on that. In terms of gels, I personally struggle with them. I've taken them a few times in races and I found because I'm not used to really using them in training, I am better going in like dry, if that makes sense. And I just, yeah, exactly. I just feel more confident. I remember Dublin last year, we were flying, I had a gel and it just gave me a bit of a stitch and didn't sit right with me. So in terms of HYROX and Deadly Dozen, I would prefer to just have nothing. And that's included with really water.
So obviously HYROX is your A race because you're in the Elite 15 for the doubles. What's going to be your plan? And now that fitness racing is growing so much, what's your plan when it comes to Deadly Dozen races like DECA, AFIX, races like marathons and Ironmans or whatever it may be? Are you wanting to venture into other races or will it be in this, what I call like the conventional fitness racing like HYROX and Deadly Dozen? Or
I think obviously HYROX is my bread and butter in terms of both my performance and obviously my coaching. We've talked about obviously we're going to come back and give Deadly Dozen another go, so I'm definitely keen to do that. Obviously, I'm very much a warm weather man, so maybe I'll come over to the one. Maybe I'll come over to the one the sunny ones and do it over there. But in terms of stuff like that, I think what I really want from this summer is to do something completely different. So me and Tony have actually talked about going and doing like an Ironman in I think Lanzarote or something like that, and doing it together. As just a different way of training and still obviously keeping stupidly aerobically fit, but then just having a complete break from kind of that type of racing. Everything is evolving so much at a rapid rate within fitness racing and every single day something new is coming out. So it's a really difficult thing to be like, where are you going to be in like 2, 3, 4 years? If you had said to me 4 years ago from now or when I first started that I was going to be sponsored by Puma, I would have a supplement sponsor, a sold out coaching business, I would have been like, you're joking. So I have no idea what the future holds, if I'm honest. I don't know.
No. Well, like I say, mate, it's well deserved. Everything I've seen is the success that you've had is incredibly well deserved. And I really appreciate you coming on. It's been, a fantastic chat. So what we do to finish the podcast is essentially 3, 2, 1, go. So 3 words or phrases that essentially define your ethos, your lifestyle, your training ethos. 2 habits you swear by, can be anything, don't have to relate to diet or nutrition. And 1 final piece of advice for listeners. So first one, 3 words or phrases that define your ethos.
I think I'd have to go with what mine and Tony's mentality is within HYROX, and that's start hot, stay hot, finish hot.
Just go all in.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a very good one. Yeah. Good. He's nailed that one, hasn't he? And second one, 2 habits that you swear by.
Consistency. I think without a doubt.
Across the board, everything.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, whatever you do, just be consistent with it.
Yeah.
And the second habit.
Something you do daily.
Structure. So I have a little board at home. My kitchen cupboards, you can write on them.
Oh, wow.
And every single night before I go to bed, I write my plan for the next day. And I can't go to sleep until everything's ticked off. So making sure every single day is structured.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. And 1 final piece of advice for the listener.
And 1 final piece of advice. I think the results you're looking for are through consistency. I don't think there's any fancy training plan or newfound coach or newfound way of training that you need. If things aren't going well, just stick with the plan, trust the process, and you will get those results that you want.
Stick with the consistency.
Yeah.
No, it's brilliant. Great advice. And genuinely, Ciaran, it's you know, you've come on the train all the way from London, come and do the Deadly Dozen podcast. I really appreciate you being a part of our journey.
No,
and you really do deserve all the success you had. The individuals I've worked with that follow your programming just absolutely sing your praises. So,
appreciate
so
it.
well
Thanks
done
so
to you.
much. Thanks for having me down, Jason. Appreciate it.
No worries.